Hello, I'm here at the Iris Prize Festival 2012 with the lovely and extremely tall Stephane, who wrote, directed and produced Prora. Am I pronouncing that properly?
Yeah, that's right. In German we would say Prora with a rolling R.
It's a great film. It's really quite atmospheric. I really enjoyed it. One of the best things, one of the most striking things about it is definitely the location. Was the story kind of complete and then you found the location, or did you kind of stumble onto the setting and kind of build a story around it?
I was actually working on a script about two boys confirming their identities. I wanted to talk about masculinity, about discovering different sexuality. And I came across a newspaper article and I saw a panoramic photography of this building, and it really struck me immediately. I was like, oh my god, I need to shoot a movie over there. And it is the building that inspired the story. I rewrote the story. There were many versions of the script, but the building really inspired me. And this building, Prora, has been built by the Nazis in the 1930s, and it was meant to be a holiday resort to control the German population even during their leisure time. It was meant as such, but it was never used as such because the war broke out. And during the war, it served as a military hospital and as a refugee camp. And in 1945, the Red Army conquered it. And they turned it into a military complex where during 40 years, the East German government formed officers and jailed like people who refused to carry a weapon. It was a really terrible place, actually. And when the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, it was abandoned. And this is a structure that is about 3 miles long along the Baltic Sea shore in the northeastern part of Germany. And this building really interests me in the sense that it has a lot of symbolic meaning, layers. That is, it was designed by a fascist government. It was used by a communist regime. Many generations of men suffered there, whether the wounded during the war, the refugees, the forced workers who built it, and then all those soldiers also. And it was my way of being able to talk about some part of German history. I am Swiss myself, but I have a German mom, and I had never lived in Germany before I moved to Berlin about 3 years ago. And it seemed like the perfect setting to tell this story. It would give perspective to the human feelings. I see it as a metaphor of society too. You can see it in many different ways, but this massive oppressive structure could stand for heterosexism and the rigid social norms that we all grew up with. And these boys, get lost in there, terrible things happen, and it's only then when they're closer to nature and to the ocean that they're able to reconcile. You can see in many different ways.
There's some great aerial shots in there. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I wanted to use some kind of aerial device to get a global shot of this building. This building is about 3 miles long, and it's impossible to see it in its entirety, especially if you want to include a little bit of the surroundings or the beach. And in the first version of the script, I imagined a last shot with a real helicopter. And when I asked the woman who was supposed to produce the film, she sort of laughed at me and was like, "Oh, Stephane, this is your first film? You want a helicopter? Right, in your dreams." And then I sort of forgot about it. But then when I got into production many years later, I produced it myself. So I had the freedom to do it. I got actually some funding from the Swiss government, and I got quite a lot of money to do it. So thank you, Switzerland, for that. And I came across another article in some professional industry magazine, and I came across those guys. They call themselves the camp pilots, and they built a mini helicopter that they remote control. And so there are two guys actually, and they fix a camera on it, which rotates on itself, and another guy pilots the camera. It was fun. but it was also very stressful because this device is really sensitive to the wind, to the weather. Obviously, it cannot function when it rains. It rained half of the time during the shooting, of course, and when it was finally sunny, it was windy. So we managed to do these shots one morning at 4:30 a.m. when it was still a nice weather and there was nobody on the beach. So I was happy it worked out.
Cool. So the two main actors are extremely handsome young men. How many other very hot guys did you have to go through before you found those two? So your two lead characters are both thoroughly handsome. How many hot young men did you have to audition before you settled on those two?
I auditioned quite a few, but we live in the times of the internet. So you actually get to see a lot of profiles and show reels directly on the net without meeting the people, which is sometimes really sad because, but then I could process a lot of files and see a lot of pictures and everything. To make a long story short, I found one in Paris because I wanted him to speak French. He happened to be Swiss, which helped a lot for the funding too, because they require some nationalities and everything. And he plays Mathieu, the Frenchy guy, and he knows a little bit of German. That was important because the two characters, one of them is German, the other one is French, and they don't really communicate, each in their own language. And the other one I found in Germany. I had almost picked someone else, but Tom Gramens, who plays Jan in the movie, the little blonde German guy, was actually my top choice, my number one choice. But that bloody guy never responded. In 2 months, he didn't write back. So I had forgotten about him. I was about to pick the other one 2 weeks before the shooting started. And I get a call from his agent. It's like, oh, Tom might be interested. So I call him up, and we couldn't get a meeting. He couldn't come to Berlin. Of course, he lived 500 miles away. But I was so convinced that he was the right person to do it that I actually took the train and went to see him the very next morning. We didn't rehearse, we didn't do a proper casting, we just had a coffee, and I said basically, you got the part, please say yes. And he went, all right, I'll do it, great. It seems interesting, and I like the location, and like you, and we really got along. And a little funny anecdote. I was sitting there with Tom in this cafe. He says, yes, I'm doing the film. I was like, great. Well, now that you said yes, I need a picture of your thigh. But, you're getting a scar in the movie. And since we're so close to the shooting, I would need to photograph your leg. And he goes, you basically want me to drop my pants? And I was like, yes. So we went.
And he did?
To a backyard. I was filming him, and he basically went, opened his belt, and dropped his pants in front of me. And then I photographed his thigh for my makeup artist. And then he turns his head to the camera and goes, oh, it's a lot easier to get a part with a gay director.
Nice. And so what's next for you? What's your next project going to be?
I am working on a feature film right now. I'm developing a story with an Italian screenwriter. It's going to be a melodrama and a love story. A gay love story. Or better said, a love story between two men. One very young, the other one a little older. I can't say a lot more about it because we're really in the middle of developing the story. There's no secret about it, but I would love to be able to say more.
Cool. Well, we look forward to seeing it. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the festival, and good luck.
Thank you, the Iris Prize. I'm so glad to be here.